Did you break into an off-limits pool at the vacant mansion next to your St. Pete retirement community? After swimming amongst odd pods being stored at the bottom of this pool with nary a worry, did you magically find yourself with some extra spring in your step? Did you and your fellow inconsiderate septuagenarians then use said pool so much that you turned a bunch of nice, glowing aliens in stasis into dead raisin people? If so, you must have stumbled into the Unkind Rewind, where we just watched the smash hit 1985 Ron Howard geezer pleaser, Cocoon.
Get to the chopper!
You know what you are? You're one of those little fancy lads, aren't you?
Link and I are cruising the mountain, bro, and we figure we'd some little juice.
If this is just a geezer pleaser, I must be a geezer, because I was delighted.
Well, that's great.
I like how that would be a genre at your video store.
Yeah.
Is it action or is it romance? No, it's in geezer pleasers.
Yeah.
Greetings, listeners. I'm Josh Dugan, coming to you from the North Star State, where all the olds are still out of state and possibly on another planet, getting away from the tail end of winter. Beaming in from Hell's Kitchen, I'm joined this week by my co-host, Sean McGrath. You step out on your wife with a lady who works at the grocery store this week, Sean?
She was working at a diner, right?
Was it a diner in a grocery store, or was it?
I think it was definitely the.
But
diner
this is who
girl.
you were stepping out on your wife with.
Yes. One of my wives. I was stepping out.
I know what did it. It was the Publix park bench. That's what made me think of grocery stores.
Yeah, he was doing a little kind of singing in the rain, hot on the town kind of dance, and happened to bypass a I don't know, maybe septuagenarian getting off work.
Yeah, she's probably a sexagenarian.
Very strange hours for that diner, but
yes,
good for Hume, if I can call him that.
Oh, I was so lost in what you were talking.
Yeah, we went. We
sorry.
Just did
Down a rabbit hole.
That's right, because what I've learned since watching since watching Cocoon, which I watched the same day we recorded, which was what, Tuesday? Or like 4 days ago.
Tuesday, yeah.
I forgot a lot of this movie. Like, I didn't even remember.
Yeah, trust me, we're going to get into that.
Yeah, like, my breakdown was, I thought I remembered pretty much all of it.
Sure.
I don't know how much, but wow. I forgot so much of this movie.
That's why we do this.
Yeah.
That is our special guest talking, Peter Johansen. He's revisiting this film for the first time in quite some time, coming to us from L.A.
Los Angeles. That's Los Angeles.
Yeah, not Louisiana. Why don't you tell the audience who didn't tune into last week's pre-interview a little bit about yourself, Peter?
Oh, what did I say last week?
It was a lot.
I know. I think I started off with the thing I did. Well, I'm the star of the Peter Johansen blog, which was last recorded when I was about maybe before that. But
that's you. You're the same one.
Yes, I am.
Oh.
You can still find it at peterjohansen.blogspot.com. And I wouldn't watch any of the more recent ones. Go back to the beginning.
Just watch the first ones, yeah.
Watch the
still
first.
Pure.
There's because I did at the end. It got into me just talking about that. I didn't know what to talk about anymore.
So don't do that.
Don't do a deeper dive when you go. peterjohansen.blogspot.com. You'll see me when I still had hope and joie de vivre.
Sure.
And I was young. I had a beard. I had a big black beard with a little white stripe in it. Now I'm just gray.
Yeah.
And I don't have a beard. But anyways, there's that.
You could get a big gray beard, maybe.
It looks bad. I keep flirting with it, but it's like I don't shave ever. I just trim, but it doesn't. I haven't gotten to I'll see pictures of those sexy gray-haired men, and I'm just I can't do it. I think my skin is too smooth.
There's also that transition that you have to get through with a beard where you just have to bite down on the mouthpiece and know that it's going to look terrible for a while.
Yeah.
That's always kind of the hard part. Like those guys with the great beards, they've suffered those weeks or months in getting to...
They went off into hiding to do it.
Yeah.
I had one of those beards when I was back in my early 30s. I suffered through that, and I had a good, full black beard to the point where it became like its own object. Like it wasn't like just whiskers. It was like, this is a beard. And like it kind of hurt when you pushed it, you know?
It was maybe controlling you a little bit?
Yeah. I do.
So outside of your facial hair, Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Why don't you tell us about yourself?
I'm a former fine artist that made a pivot to advertising for about 5 months. I worked for 3 years to get a master's degree in advertising and then did it for 5 months and I was fired, never looked back. I used to do a ton of improv and stand-up. Mm-hmm. Then I just became a carpenter, which I've kind of always done. And then there was a pandemic. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
And then I got cancer. So most recently, I got my prostate taken out and went through radiation. And now my PSA went from 49, which is really
high.
bad, to most recently it is 0.02. So it's kind of undetectable, but it should even go further than that, guys. So don't worry. Okay. But I still can't work. So if you want to give up to my GoFundMe.
Your socials will be posted in the show notes.
Yeah, my socials will be posted because I can still really use the help.
Because it's been like a year that you've not been able to work because of...
I have not worked.
Because you have a very physical job normally.
Yeah, well, I do I'm not the kind of carpenter who has helpers. I'm the kind of carpenter who does every single thing by myself. And I can't lift stuff. And this is the fun part of the show, I know, guys. But yeah, I haven't worked in a year.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate being invited on the show because I do like to talk. I do like to talk, and I still can talk. And I watch a lot of stuff, and it was a pleasure to watch a movie that I hadn't seen in a long time.
Hopefully Cocoon wasn't covered on your blog spot, was it?
Definitely, yeah. My blog spot was mostly just me. I covered a lot of me, and then a little bit of former girlfriend that then became very popular, and they kept just asking for more of her on the blog, which was a little bit demeaning, but... it was like, what about me, though?
So in the pre-interview last week, I said I hadn't seen this since I figure about 1989. Sean, had you seen Cocoon before?
Yeah, I've seen it before, yeah. And I would say, it'd been 30 years probably. I mean, it felt like one of those movies that were kind of a staple in VHS collections.
Sure.
It was like people got it like in the mail, like you got...
I feel like they gave it away at McDonald's.
Yeah, it was just part of... Like when you got the keys to a home, whether you were renting or buying in the 80s, it came with Cocoon.
Yes.
It was definitely at the cottage.
Oh, absolutely.
At the cottage.
Yeah, like at the cabin on the lake. Oh, that it was there.
For sure.
If basically the cover of the box robbed a bank and the police came to me for a sketch, they would pick that copy of Cocoon up in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That image of the ocean with the light emanating from the sky, it's burned on my mind. And I'm not even the biggest Cocoon head like Peter.
And Peter, it had been about the same amount of time?
That's the phrase. We're going to use Cocoon heads.
Okay.
It had probably been, I'm fairly confident I never saw it post 1989.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I ever saw it in the 90s. It was not something... I saw it a bunch, and then I didn't see it anymore.
Now, obviously, we talked a little bit in the pre-interview about you renovating a mansion in Bend. Did seeing this Boca Ciega Bayside estate get your mind racing about what you'd do on a solo reno job there?
Is that what the place was called? The next door?
That's the bay that it was on, yeah. Boca Ciega.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. No, because they didn't really show much of the property. I guess... Did they show? They mostly showed the pool room and then like the foyer, didn't they?
Yeah, well, and there's the room upstairs where Wilford Brimley comes to talk to Dennehy.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotta let him. Can we just do it? Just let us.
My buddy's got cancer. Did you feel like the pool would have helped you with your cancer?
Boy, I guess. But at this point, it wouldn't.
No, I guess the life force was drained out of it by all those olds.
Yeah. But it does make me wonder what would happen now. I mean, that's a good question. But man, those old people, the jealous old people are bastards.
Dicks.
Not the good 6.
No, not the ones that had permission.
I call them the original 6.
The way that the others ran to the pool made me feel like they didn't need the pool at all.
Yeah.
They kicked down a fucking, iron fence?
Yeah.
They broke an iron fence. One guy takes a header and just and keeps going. They were motoring. And this is pre-Cocoon juice.
Oh,
yeah.
By the way, I just want to say, I completely forgot that this was a Ron Howard movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is kind of maybe his first big film, right?
This is right after Splash.
Oh, right. Right, yeah.
He did some TV movies that I won't bother with, but the first movie that he directed that had a theatrical release was back in 1977. He directed Grand Theft Auto, but he got that basically because he agreed to be in a different Roger Corman movie, so Corman let him direct. And then 5 years after that, after some TV movies, he did Night Shift, and then he did Splash.
And then this.
Yeah. So Splash was 1983, this is 1985.
I kind of forgot about it too during the watching of it until I saw Clint.
Yeah.
Well, I remembered when it said a Ron Howard movie or whatever, directed by Ron Howard. That kind of tipped me off. But when you saw Clint, but then did you also notice who the sheriff was? The sheriff is Ron Howard's dad.
Okay.
Wait, what do you mean by sheriff? The guy that shows up at the end?
Yeah, like he kind of has a long, narrow face. And wasn't that the sheriff? Josh, do you remember?
There's a guy who works with the orderlies and then gets the Coast Guard.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like the sheriff or the cops, whatever. It was a cop or a detective or something. But the main one that's Ron Howard's dad.
Interesting.
I also saw an interview with Ron Howard.
Yeah, he's a St. Petersburg detective. He's a long-faced motherfucker, Rance Howard.
What's weird about him is I actually remember him from Seinfeld. He had very small part. I think maybe one episode in...
He's in a lot of shit. It's taking a
lot. This guy worked a lot. He's in The Burbs, Inner Space.
Okay, he's a blind man and he's a farmer. He's
a blind man, yes. So this is where...
He's in The Glasses and he's in The Bottle Deposit.
For those who know Seinfeld, George Costanza is trying to help him, and then George Costanza thinks he sees the person that took his glasses, and they run out of a health club half naked together.
Okay.
I think I remember that one.
Yeah. They're both kind of standing in the street, half dressed, and he's playing a blind guy with a walking cane holding onto Costanza's arm.
Yeah. I can picture that.
I did not know he was Ron Howard's father, but...
he's a Bruce Dern type.
Yeah.
That's who he is.
So he was a Nepo daddy.
Yes.
There's a lot of Nepo happening. They might be the original Nepo
was
family.
Ron? Rance had to have been established before Ron was, right?
I'm sure he was. I don't know. I mean, I would guess. I think they're a longtime Hollywood family.
They are. They're
but
Hollywood
I know he's born in Oklahoma. Yeah. Ron Howard is.
We need to show some respect.
Yeah. Tip your hat to Rance and Ron and Clint and Bryce Dallas.
So it looks like Rance Howard started back in his first credits in 1956, so that's got to be before Ron, right?
I would say that's before Ron's directing career.
Sure, certainly before his directing career.
It wouldn't surprise me if Rance knew somebody over in Mayberry, though, who recommended his young son.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if Rance was ever on. He had to have been on an episode of Andy Griffith, right?
Was, yeah. He's in 4. He's ranging from 62 to 64.
Get my son's beak wet.
Okay, so this is not a Rance Howard podcast, though.
To all of our chagrin.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Now, after talking about how you had not seen this since the 80s, you talked a bit about Cocoon being at the center of a larger fascination with old people. I'm going to throw to that clip right here.
I was thinking this morning about, Cocoon is kind of like the filmic centerpiece of this mid-80s fascination with old people. There's Golden Girls and there's Cocoon and Cocoon 2. And then there was that movie with Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas where they played old bank robbers or train robbers.
What is that?
And then they couldn't get it together, so they decided to have one last heist. And I mean,
it's
like,
not Tough Guys, right?
Yeah, that was what it was, I think.
Maybe that's a movie they did earlier, but I know that they got together on Tough Guys.
That sounds right, to be honest.
There was also that one part of the Twilight Zone, the movie, that
was the old people that would turn young at night and then go back to being old.
Yeah.
And that there was just so much old. It was really a thing.
I still stand by that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what do you think it was about Cocoon, now that you rewatched it for the first time in like 35 years, that made it that lightning in a bottle for geriatric forward fare and the cinema?
Wilford Brimley.
Okay, 100% Wilford?
No, I mean, I think it's... What is it? It's interesting, right? Because there's nothing really... I mean, I guess the idea of being able to kind of get... Oh, God. Is it like superpowers? You know, is it, you know, but the superpower is just feeling better, not feeling arthritis and cancer.
They were doing a lot of their own stunts.
Yeah. And also, Don Amici, that's not who I remembered breakdancing. In my mind, I remembered Jessica Tandy.
Yeah.
And I remembered it being on a boardwalk. And maybe that happens in...
I think that's in a different movie.
It might be, but it could be in Cocoon too.
Sure, yeah. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't nearly as impressive it wasn't nearly as lame looking as I thought it looked in my mind.
Sure, because it's in an oddly lit nightclub.
Right, yeah. I remembered it being in the daylight and stuff, but...
There's definitely something where some granny is breakdancing in the 90s, and I just can't remember what it is. Or in the 80s, rather. In the 80s.
It's literally the same routine.
Yeah.
We were talking about how this came up in advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the Pepsi generation also with this aging generation. What did we call them last time?
It's not. I was wrong about that. So Greatest Generation was born from 1901 to 1927. And then a lot of them. They're after the Lost Generation, obviously, you know, Hemingway, Fitzgerald, all them. And then in 28, basically the Depression is the line of demarcation, but born between 28 and 45 is the Silent Generation.
Okay, so they weren't silent. They
would. Well, some of them were. Okay. I suppose this is when we should talk about Wilford Brimley's age in this.
Let's get Wilford out of the way.
Yes.
He's just the elephant in the room right now.
He is, and we need to talk about it.
He's the diabetes in the room.
He's the diabetes. But this has to be pre-diabetes because he looks fairly trim. Like he doesn't have that rotund, he's kind of chubby. But
he looks barrel-chested.
He moves
probably
well.
Because he's 49.
Yes, was he 49? I thought he was 51.
No, he's 50 when the movie was released. He's 49 in this.
Okay, can I tell you how old I am?
I know. I can't wait for this.
I'm 49.
Now, could you imagine playing opposite of... And this is rough. I'm just going by their birth year versus the year that the shot in 84. So, Don Amici, who's 76. Jack Gilford, who's 76. Jessica Tandy, who's 75. Hume Cronin, who's 73. Herta Ware, the wife of the Jack Guilford character who dies, 67.
Jack Guilford is Bernie?
Yeah, Bernie.
Yes.
Okay.
And then Maureen Stapleton and Gwen Verdon are 59 apiece.
And that's the waitress and...
No, Gwen Verdon's the dancer who gets with Don Amici. She's the dance
that's
leader.
what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah,
and Maureen Stapleton is playing Brimley's wife. But is 10 years older than him.
So here's a funny fact. Brimley is closer in age to Gutenberg than he is to Don Amici.
How old was Gutenberg?
He's only 2 years older than fucking Brian Dennehy.
Wow.
Gutenberg's like 27 in this.
Yeah. Dennehy and Gutenberg. Dennehy got a DUI when he and Gutenberg were out drinking on the shoot.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that needed to happen.
And then he thanked the cop. He thanked the cop and thanked him for doing his job. Sincerely,
wow, what a guy.
Not sarcastically.
That's really not like...
Brian Dennehy, speaking of barrel-chested, this guy missed an opportunity to play Kingpin. Like, he is imposing.
Yeah.
Always has been.
Oh, my God.
He has such an interesting look because he has such angular features for such a, like, big, round man.
Yeah.
Like, he's very chiseled. He's kind of like the rifleman, Chuck Connors or something like that, if Chuck Connors had gotten... real fat, real barrel chested. I don't think Chuck Connors ever made it to that.
No, I think he's always stayed lanky.
He's like an inverted pyramid, kind of. He's probably like 8 feet across, shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, he really is. I'd completely forgotten that he was in this movie. Like, I had completely forgotten.
I'd completely forgotten most of this movie, honestly.
Right. But there was, I remember talking that I remember there was Gutenberg, and I was like, I can't remember what Gutenberg was, if he was like a scientist or something like that. And I remember there was a love interest.
Did you have dipshit down on his luck fishing boat captain as what his occupation was?
I did not. Who was kicked off of the dock for not being able to pay his dock fees. Yeah. Getting ripped off by fishermen that rented his boat for the day. But since he didn't get them the guaranteed fish, which is such bullshit. Like, come on, man. It's fishing. It's not like...
He said the guy had also thrown up on his boat.
Oh my God. Such disrespect.
Okay, so we asked you to summarize what you remember the plot of the movie being.
There's alien eggs, cocoons, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
And I don't remember where they find them, and I don't remember exactly who finds them. I can't remember if like Steve Gutenberg is like I think he's like the scientist, but I know that they transfer them to the pool I think it's at the old folks' home. And then when the old people swim with the cocoons, they start to reverse age. And then I just remember this morning them opening the cocoons and there being like raisin aliens inside. Because they're sapping the aliens of their life force. Okay. And then there's some part where the aliens turn into energy and fly around the pool area. And then the old people are invited to go back to their planet with them. Because, I guess, to be young again.
So...
Pretty close.
Yeah. Sean's response to that summary, if people didn't listen to the pre-interview, was regardless of if you're right or not, this is a terrible pitch.
Yeah. How this got made. I mean, I know that it's based on a book, and the book, I think, did well because people were looking for answers.
The book came out in 1985, so I think the book
could be a novelization.
I think it was a novelization that came out at the same time because they did that so much in the 80s.
They did a novelization of Rambo First Blood Part 2.
His name
I read the novelization of Dick Tracy.
In the opening credits, though. We see David Saperstein's name pop up.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It's a story by, but I think it's a story by, and then he wrote the novel to. But I think he sold the story that basically the treatment to 20th Century Fox.
I mean, yeah, I think Peter does a pretty good job here of getting the finer points. Maybe not remembering that if it had just been the three central characters, they probably would have been fine. Like the raisioning wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It was the mass.
Yeah. It was 40 olds going over. Yeah.
It was deep trawling the oceans. Like
the part where, okay, so they go over, and I get it. They want to be they want to be young again. It only takes about 4 minutes for them to completely kill all the aliens.
Yes.
But there's the part
they only killed 2 of them. They threw 18 back in the ocean.
Oh, that's right. But the part where the olds have the egg on the side, the cocoon on the side of the pool.
What the fuck are they doing?
Like, trying to crack it open. It's like,
what a bunch of assholes.
What the fuck? You people are the worst.
Yeah.
Like,
they should not be able to go back to the Antarian planet, you know?
I would have shot all of those people. I'm sorry.
With cause.
But, yeah.
Stand your ground.
Exactly.
This is Castle Doctrine.
It's Florida.
So did the Atlantis wrinkle hit you weird
totally
on the rewatch?
Forgot that.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if I picked up on that at the time. Like I don't know if that would have hit me. It might have, but
Atlantis was all the rage in the 80s.
It was. I think Atlantis is all the rage now. I don't know that it ever went out of style.
You know that some people watching it in the theater got elbowed by their partner during that name drop. They're like,
hey,
Atlantis.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, shit.
Does it surprise you that this was a highly sought after project?
What is it? What I'm trying to wrap my head around is like, why this movie?
What is this movie?
Yeah. What was it about the 80s that like made this such a huge hit? Like, why that moment in time? Culturally, what was going on that?
It's baffling to me.
That put this movie. This had to have been a top 10.
Did you look it up, Peter? Because I did.
It was an Academy Award winner, right?
Hume Cronin won in visual effects.
No. Amici.
Or sorry. I meant, yeah. I always say Alan Amici instead of Don. Alan Amici, of course, played for the Colts, and he scored the winning touchdown in the greatest game ever played. They're cousins. Alan and Don are. Yeah. But I always do that. I did it while we were recording last time, too. I called him Alan. But yeah, Don Amici won. He'd never been nominated for an Academy Award, so he's the oldest person to win an Academy Award who had not been previously nominated.
Wow.
But originally, Robert Zemeckis was supposed to direct this.
It wouldn't have been any different.
Probably not. Fox execs hated Romancing the Stone, though.
Oh.
And so that, along with he had two previous failures, I Want to Hold Your Hand and Used Cars before that. Fox canned him from this, and Ron Howard got it. So then he went and did Back to the Future instead.
Too bad, yeah.
Which,
thank God.
Back to the Future was the top-grossing movie of 1985. In the 1985 calendar year, this was number 5.
Because there was a lot of good movies that came out that year, right?
This did $76 million to Back to the Future's $211 million. One movie ended up, I think it was Out of Africa, ended up jumping over because of, Oscar shit. Ended up leapfrogging Cocoon. So of 85 releases, Cocoon is the 6th highest grossing movie.
Gremlins came out in 85.
I think
Gremlins was Pee-wee came out in 85.
Goonies came out in 85.
Goonies did, yeah.
Josh, did you get the budget on this?
No.
Okay, so gross 76. I imagine that this probably was a $10 million movie. Maybe a little bit less, but I would say, given what they were dealing with.
It was pretty effects heavy, though. Like, practical, and I bet the outer space shot in the beginning cost a lot of money.
All the UFOs.
Budget was 17.5.
Okay, I was off. But probably the hair dye for Wilford Brimley was a lot of that.
Yeah, it's weird. They basically just dyed his hair, and it did a little, liver spotting. That's all they did. He looks as old as all of these old fucks.
The balding helps. The size helps. The hat, the glasses, all that stuff contributes to us thinking that Wilford Brimley was a lot older than he was.
But when you watch The Natural, which is 3 years before this, he still looks old.
He's that's
not
what
a spring
I'm thinking.
chicken.
Is I can't picture a time in my life.
He was born 45 years old.
Yeah, he ever looked... Because once he really was old... He was just a little rounder and a little bigger, but he looked exactly like this.
Yeah, he got bigger by the firm, certainly.
Yeah. Which is about 10 years after this.
But in this movie, certainly somebody that you wouldn't want to mess with, at a bar. I mean, him doing those stunts and dives off the springboard.
Yeah.
I've done that move where you just fall on the springboard and let
the butt flop.
The butt flop. Yeah, it's no joke for, even 50.
If I did that right now...
Well, good thing he was only 49, Sean.
Yeah, good thing he was only 49.
That would have snapped Jessica Tandy.
I tried to do a front flip 2 years ago, and I was like, this is easy. I used to do it all the time. And I just, biffed so hard.
Did you over-rotate or pull out too soon?
I just did a back flop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a bad back flop. But, yeah.
Knocked his beard right off.
Yeah. I was impressed with some of their moves. I really was.
When they all three dove in right next to each other off the side, the lifeguard in me was these motherfuckers are going to get a spinal. They're all diving into this pool that is not deep enough for them to be diving in they are. And they're old fucks.
You don't do that if you were born after 1960.
No.
But back then, it just was one of those things. They were very comfortable with each other. I got to say, I don't know what the scene was that Don Amici yanked out an Academy Award for this.
Breakdancing.
It's when he's giving away money on the street, I think.
Yeah.
But the guy was fit as hell at 76.
Yeah, very spry.
Those shorts, those red, mid-thigh. Who is pulling that off at 76 other than Don Amici? And yes,
his cousin is a former pro football. There's got to be a genetic thing with them.
I would be surprised if Don Amici played college ball.
I don't know if he did.
Yeah.
Now, Hume Cronin, when he's punching the orderlies, he used to be a Golden Gloves boxer.
All right, I knew that too.
And he knocked out one of the orderlies because he's blind in one eye, and his depth perception shit. And he accidentally knocked out one of the orderlies. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, by the way, that entire facility was run by 2 orderlies.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
They had no budget for a doctor or a nurse at that facility.
It was a weird place because it was like,
and with those 2 orderlies, like you think the place would be in complete disrepair. It actually looked okay.
Yeah.
And those 2 guys didn't give a shit about their job.
Yeah.
No. Well, and then they kind of did. It was weird.
Only once all of them were gone.
Yeah, because they knew that
their job was going away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
You thought that the old people went back with the Antarians to be young again. Do you think that made more sense to you now or as a 10-year-old? Like the sort of mechanics of this plot point.
I think it was the same. Like it made sense to me because that's what they wanted. Like that was their ultimate want.
But why are they able to? Is my question.
Why are they able to?
Uh-huh. Oh, like this. Oh, okay. They go to this planet and then they're immortal, I guess. Is this like a Highlander? Right. This is Highlander rules, but like reversed?
I guess.
I mean, that's a good question. Like, what happens to them when they get there? Do they turn into energy beings as well? Because now I can't remember. Because we would know when they come back, right?
You'd think.
I can't remember if we get a Wilford.
They lose their
Brimley.
mortality when they come, or they lose their immortality when they come back. I know that.
Do they stay?
Some of them leave, some of them stay.
Oh, okay. I think I'm kind of vaguely remembering that.
Peter, let's cover this when you come back and we do the
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't wait to do Cocoon the Return.
I will do it. I'm planning on doing it.
So after trying to remember details about the Goot's love interest, which was Tawny Welch, which is Raquel Welch's daughter.
She looked great.
Yeah, she's amazing looking. She's beautiful.
Yeah.
Especially when she leaves her rubber skin on the ground.
Oh, I know. So hot.
Problematic is the whole peeping Tom thing, right? Like, there's so many things like that.
Are we supposed to like him?
Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be, that's just boyhood shenanigans. It's just shenanigans.
Are we supposed to like him? Because I find it very hard to like his character.
When he does stuff like that, we're definitely supposed to like him.
He got what he deserved because that's probably the scariest scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's real freaked out.
Well, that or the olds charging the pool.
Yeah, I'm talking
dicks.
about like the being with that eyes, like zooming towards the people or the portal.
It's always funny whenever the people take their things off, their skin off, I guess.
Their skin suits.
Yeah, they immediately know exactly who's looking at them. Like, because when...
Yeah, but not when they're wearing their skin suits.
Right, not when they're wearing their skin suits. Because, like, she had no sense that he was there, and then she takes her skin off and immediately looks at the little hole. And then when the olds are hiding in the closet, they also do the same thing, where when they all come back and they're gonna be free.
Fuck around in the pool area.
Yeah. And then they immediately look over to Wilford Brimley and his gang of olds.
The skin looked a lot better when it was on the beings of light, as opposed to being like
flopped on the ground.
Thrown in a bin. Yeah.
Quite wetly.
Oh, right. When they threw it in, then they threw it in the bin that you would keep like pool toys in, you know, like flop.
There was a noticeable smacking noise.
Yeah.
It was pretty foul.
If you really thought about, I mean, I guess there's the part where hers isn't fitting quite right, and Brian Denny, he kind of like adjusts the ear part. That's kind of gross. I'm going to jump around a little bit, because as soon as I saw Bernie, I remembered his entire storyline.
Okay.
I remembered him, like, his wife dying, and then him bringing her to the pool when the pool's energy was dead already. And I remember hating him through the entire movie when I was a kid. And I still was really annoyed with him the whole time. Just being, like, the way he treated his wife. I mean, like, who gives a fuck? He, you know, like, and he's like, no, we're not going over there because we're doing fine. We're doing fine. And he's just a party pooper.
We talk a little bit sometimes about things that we would fix. I think that was a big missed opportunity for them not to smuggle Rose against
you reading
Bernie's,
the main event, Sean?
Against Bernie's.
Are you reading our doc?
I'm not. But how cool would that have been?
Yeah.
Don't get into more fixes yet, though.
Okay. It would have been really cool. to drag her without him knowing.
Yeah.
And watch the kind of dementia fade away.
Okay, so I'm going to throw to the next clip where you're talking about your friend ruining the breakdancing scene when you were talking the other day. So here that goes.
My friend and I were talking the other day because I told him I was doing this, and he actually brought up kind of what you were talking about with like old people doing things they weren't supposed to be able to do. And I got really pissed off at him because I was like, shut up. I don't need, he's like, no, we're just having a conversation. I'm like, no, that's the whole point of this thing. Like, I don't want to be,
right.
You know, I want to like have my mismemories be pure. Yeah. But he was reminding me of there being breakdancing with Jessica Tandy, I believe. When he said it, I was like, yep, I remember that part. I totally remember that part. Some urban types. And then she jumps on a piece of cardboard. And
it wouldn't be a movie from 1985 if someone wasn't breakdancing.
Yeah. And very clearly like a wig person, you know, like, oh, that's just a really cheap gray wig on somebody who can breakdance. I was wrong.
Yeah. How do you feel like your memory held up with that scene specifically?
I was off. Oddly enough, it was basically the exact same breakdancing routine. Like, the backspin shot, but it wasn't Jessica Tandy, and it wasn't outside on the boardwalk. Like, I mean, I already said all this, but it was wrong. But I did remember somebody breakdancing.
How much of this film do you think you jumbled with Short Circuit in your head?
I don't know. Do we know that breakdancing scene is in Short Circuit?
No, but you definitely had the like Ali Sheedy as the love interest for a second, and then you're like, that's not right. So like, you know, they were sort of like, I think there are a number of movies that are sort of commingling in the headspace where Cocoon is occupying.
Right. I don't think that much, because I don't remember Steve Guttenberg in Short Circuit. I just know he was there, but I can't picture one scene.
But he was a scientist in that.
Okay.
Yeah, he was not a slummy boat captain the way he is here.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember Fisher Stevens and Ali Sheedy.
Yeah.
And that's it. Problematic.
Saying that there was a breakdancing scene in an 80s movie is a pretty safe bet.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that film had a breakdancing scene.
Let me ask, did anybody pause and wonder, certainly the Cocoon juice makes you feel more youthful, certainly hornier, but it also gives you this talent that you previously didn't have. Don Amici, even as a young man, could not have breakdanced because it had not been invented yet. So I would have liked to seen him tango or something like that, where we could. He's going.
He kind
back
of does
to
dance, though. He does
dance, not with a reckless abandon, the way that he fucking 6 steps and like chair poses and windmills and everything that he's doing to impress mulleted Florida club goers.
That's true.
Wasn't there something else? Was there another? Was it billiards or pool or something?
They're bowling.
Bowling, right? Yeah, bowling. Where it was like
because they
suddenly they're
trophies.
they're just crushing at bowling.
Oh yeah, who gets bowling trophies just for going bowling that day? Because they weren't in a tournament.
It's St. Petersburg.
Oh, okay, that happens.
That's you can just chalk it up to St. Pete. Yeah.
Okay. I hate stuff like that in movies. I really do. Like, what the fuck? Who gets an everyday trophy? Nobody. That's
sure, no one does.
Doesn't happen until the 90s.
Now, are you glad that you did get some misremembering in? Because I think you were sort of concerned that your memory was going to work too well with this.
Oh, God, yes. Because, I mean, like, I can say that I didn't remember maybe 55 to 60% of this movie. Because I didn't remember the entire Brian Dennehy Welch, I do remember the 2 nameless dudes that are there with the one with the
Pillsbury
beard
and whoever the hell the other one is.
Did they have names? I don't
Pillsbury
even know.
Pillsbury was one of them, because they're playing cards with him at one point when he's.
But like those guys. Just I remember vividly like their energy of like. In some movies, those 2 guys would be like the muscle, right?
Sure.
Like they'd be like the nefarious muscle. They never had that energy. They were just like good helpers and nice guys. But I didn't remember that the whole thing was that these aliens were here to retrieve these cocoons from the ocean. And that's where the cocoons came from. Like in my mind, I was thinking that maybe Steve Guttenberg discovered the cocoons somehow, or like it was kind of thing where he maybe he was searching for Atlantis, but not specifically, but he was doing some sort of oceanographic study and came upon these things. But as soon as I saw like Brian Dennehy, I immediately was like, oh, right. Like, now he's going to pull his eyelid down and show the energy. And like, I remembered so much immediately of like, oh, there's a whole bunch of this movie that I completely forgot. And then it was fun to watch it, but I forgot so much. I had the basic framework, but
that moment with the eye has transcended the movie. I feel like Brian Dennehy pulling his eyelid down is something that like,
that was his moment that played at the Oscars when he died?
I think like that's, that goddamn right.
Yeah.
But that's like when you're doing the kind of full montage of cinema of the 20th century, I think you're going to use the Brian Dennehy pulling the eyelid down.
It is. It's an iconic
But that's
image.
assuming that anyone remembers.
More than Tawny Welch sexifying Gutenberg in the pool with pure energy.
Oh, yeah.
Did he get like eventually ricocheted with that energy and
orgasm,
absorb it? Yeah, I mean, like, what? So, how would you describe to a 8th grade class? Sure, but like an 8th grade health class, how these creatures have sex?
You can't. It's not explained at all. It's a befuddling mix of.
She doesn't even take off her skin.
Did this screw up your conception of what intercourse was when you were 10, Peter?
This is what you tried your first time?
Yeah, I just sat there and...
When's that energy ball gonna come?
Yeah. Mom, can we try this thing I saw in a movie?
I didn't quite understand the rules of it. It didn't seem sexy, but it seemed like they felt good. But I was wondering... There's a couple. I was wondering when the old started talking about their boners.
That's what I was gonna. That's seriously just what I was gonna ask you. Was with those moments, do you wish that you had seen this with your grandparents?
I don't even know. I mean, like, I'm sure it's funny because I don't even know. I know that I didn't like masturbate the first time in life until I was in 6th grade. I think. Okay. I'm sure I had boners and stuff, but I don't think I hadn't been, well, I don't know. I had crushes on girls and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know, like, how it would have affected me. I mean, like, much like I said, I'm an apologist for movies. Like, I think that if something doesn't make sense to me in a movie, I've always been able to just be like, yeah,
move past it.
Yeah, that's fine. Because I'm more interested. I do remember being really I can be really fixated on like that they definitely, I want them to get their want, right? Like I don't want them to have a tragic ending, right? I want it to be a good ending, which it is. So
a clever cut was them talking about boners and then Hume Cronin sitting there in bed with his knees under the blanket, but it really arced quite
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Precipitously. And then Jessica Tandy rolls in with her burqa.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say.
Like, from like chin to ankle.
Yeah. Felt. Made of like felt or wool.
Needing some of that 8:30 p.m. lovin'.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys think that the Jamie Lee Curtis movie Blue Steel is named after Wilford Brimley's erection in this film?
Oh yeah, he said that, right?
He said that, yes.
Why did he say that?
That was
really gross. Blue Steel.
That's what caused Maureen Stapleton to climb that tree.
For sure. Yeah. Get me away from that.
That had to have been one of the craziest stunts in the movie, is just throwing her up there and just saying,
how did they get her up there?
Just hold on to the
crane.
truck,
Absolutely a crane.
It would have been really funny if it would have been like a really poor attempt to like hide some sort of safety strap, but there was no safety strap. She was just up there.
No, she was in a crane lift, I'm sure.
They're going to get a body double for Amici breakdancing. They needed a body double for Maureen Stapleton in a tree.
Maybe she's just an avid tree climber in real life.
Let me ask you this. When Hume Cronin, insatiable sex lust, is not satisfied after bowling.
Which is weird because usually bowling does a trick.
Yeah.
Gutter balls. Do you know anybody who would be told by their spouse, hey, I'm still going to go and hang out, and Jessica Tandy going like, oh, I'll go with you. No. No, I'm good. Like he wanted to go hang out when his wife says, "I'll go with you."
Yeah.
Puts her in a car and sends her packing so he can go Tomcat.
And clearly this was colors of young Hume.
Yeah.
We're not calling them by the characters' names at all, by the way. Just
right.
Listeners,
I don't know those
sorry.
names,
I don't know their names at all. They are just the actors.
One of them's name is Jack.
Bernie.
And Bernie. Jack, Bernie, and Rose is the ones we remember. I do remember being really like sad that he did that when I was a kid. Because it's like her husband was dying. And then she like gets her husband back, and you're supposed, he's supposed to like want to be with his wife because they've gotten this time that they want, and like he goes and has it with a woman. I'll be honest, I didn't find very attractive for even her old. I mean, I don't know,
but she spilled a shake on him.
Oh, it's cute. You're right.
He had a wandering eye way before that, though, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, he was clearly a dog earlier in their marriage.
Yeah.
The only reason he wasn't was because he had gotten probably sick and old, and he probably didn't have any blue steel anymore.
It would have been, maybe better if it had been a slightly younger age than, say, his peer.
Yeah.
I don't know how old people are in this thing anyway, if Wilford Brimley's 49. But yeah, definitely kind of an interesting subplot, I guess, with insatiable Hume Cronin.
The least sexual man ever. Like, have you seen young Hume Cronin and things? You're like, this guy is the weirdest. He has such a small torso.
Yeah. I think if Hume Cronin and Jessica Tandy aren't married, you actually just make Don Amici and Tandy the couple.
Sure.
And have Amici be the horn dog.
She has nothing to do in this movie.
Oh, I know.
Jessica Tandy?
Yeah.
From this to winning an Academy Award 4 years later is a shock based on her performance in this. Yeah. She does nothing here.
Yeah.
She barely has any lines.
No, she has nothing to do. I think it's fair to say it's not a reflection on Tandy. It's a reflection on the script having nothing for any of the female characters to do.
It's true.
Right.
Because Tawny Welch would never be interested in this Gutenberg character either.
No.
Like, he's a complete fucking idiot.
The mom disappears. Like, she's gone for most of it. So does the grandkid for a huge chunk of the movie. Mm-hmm. And that grandkid disappeared kind of in real life because he had quite the run in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Barrett Oliver.
Did you look him up now?
I just knew that he hadn't done anything. I haven't seen what he looks like, but...
Oh, he looks like a steampunk anarchist with dreadlocks and a full beard and glasses. And
that's awesome.
He clearly has been running away from
his childhood.
Like, hey, you're Daryl! Yeah. For his whole life.
Guess what? I'm sure he's still accepting his residual checks.
Oh, sure.
I'm sure.
So when I asked you, you thought that your analog in the film when you watched it as a kid was the grandson, largely because of his relationship with his grandparents. But did he feel like your analog this time watching it?
No, I didn't feel that same connection to him at all. I just felt like, well, maybe a little bit, but not. Yeah, maybe I did. I don't know. He's so not a thing. I mean, I guess he just loves his grandpa, and that's the one thing that I do. I mean, I guess I could relate to that.
Was it weird for you that the 10-year-old version of yourself would have been drawn to a film where your analog disappears for like an hour?
I don't know. No. I mean, like, I probably could have just projected myself into any of those old men. Like, whoever the leader was, I probably projected myself into Wilford Brimley, to be perfectly honest.
Did you do it this time? Did you feel like Jack was your stand-in, or did you feel like Gutenberg was?
Gutenberg.
Okay.
I was Gutenberg. That's interesting. But yeah, it's just funny because I'm the same age as Wilford Brimley now. So
is Barrett Oliver.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah.
But Wilford Brimley's 49 playing 70s. So
that's true. I'm going to just look up Barrett Oliver and see if I can even show you from here, because he is like 49 right now. He's exactly our age, or my age.
Now, while you're doing that, I asked what young Peter...
Can you see this?
What the fuck? Yeah, that's insane.
Weird. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough life. Who knows?
So I asked you what you thought young Peter was like when he was watching Cocoon.
Oh, I was emotional. I know that I was always emotionally affected by movies when I was a kid, like far more than other kids. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember on you know, and like teachers would have in-service and stuff, like they would sometimes hand out vouchers for all the kids in elementary school to go see Lassie. They would play like a matinee of Lassie, which they never did. Like they never had Lassie on, but it would be like this kind of special event. And I remember being like probably in 3rd or 4th grade and going with my friends' older brothers who were in high school and like crying. And they were just like, what the fuck, Peter? Like just beating me up. And then everyone was much harder than I was. But I do remember being I probably cried. I'm sure I cried at it.
Yeah.
I still do. I cried at it.
You have a soft spot, you would say, though, for Cocoon.
Like, do I hold a soft spot for it? I'll tell you this. When I watch it, there's a 85% chance I'll shed a tear.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I'll tell you that, yeah. Maybe better than 85%. But so, yeah. I don't, like, think back on it as a movie that, like, oh, that movie sucked. I remember it as, like, as a movie that I really liked.
Right.
And enjoyed.
Did present day Peter shed a tear?
I think I did. I honestly can't remember, but I think I did. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you know what? I'm positive I did.
Do you know what moment it was?
I think it was when David was saying goodbye to them. Okay. That was maybe part of it.
On the boat?
Yeah.
After he jumped? Or
before, when he was like...
when
he jumped onto the boat when he ran it. That might have been.
Okay.
I mean, it could have been all through it because, like, one thing that always gets me is somebody getting or becoming who they want to be. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
Sure,
like,
sure. No, I get
you know
what
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, whenever it's like they find some sort of like truth for themselves,
right,
and an answer or a solution or help. Like, that's, I think, what gets me is like, you know, there's an existential feeling of dread. Like, sure. I don't know why. And like this movie has that sense of there being kind of an answer to life, right? And these people know the answer more than Earthlings do. So, I mean, I think that would probably get me. So, yeah, I definitely cried. Okay. I cried.
Sure.
I cried.
That's fine.
That's okay. Yeah.
Do you think 2024 Peter enjoyed Cocoon as much as 1985 Peter did?
I think so. Okay. I really liked it. I was watching it. My question is why is this movie so hard to find?
Oh, I can tell you.
Why?
So we sort of talked about how Cocoon disappeared from public consciousness by 89 or so. The public appetite for this film so thoroughly evaporated that when there was a DVD release of it, it sold so poorly at Walmart that 20th Century Fox basically stopped selling it anywhere. So you can't find it anymore. They haven't re-released it on Blu-ray. They haven't bothered with digital because why bother with it? They don't feel like there was an appetite for it. So why bother? Because you have to redo the music rights every time.
Right.
That's why so many things died. Not that there's a ton of music in this, but there's no appetite for it. Now, I had guessed that Field of Dreams killed it, and Sean and I both thought that the Field of Dreams in Dyersville didn't open for longer, but it actually opened like the next year to the public. So we did talk about that, and I just wanted to correct that. The family that owns the farm had a little like tourism hutch there by 90. Yeah.
Do you feel that the marketplace is ready for a reintroduction of Cocoon now?
No.
You think it's sitting right where it should in the dustbin of history? Only viewable on
illegally?
Sling?
I think it'd be difficult to re-release this or to bring it back into the public consciousness with how kind of cynical people are today. This is not a movie that's cynical in any way or fashion.
I mean, it lets the awful old people go off to be immortal.
Yeah, and it speaks to, like,
that's true.
You know, kind of this reality of heaven, which I think a lot of people who were on the way out probably found comforting.
Sure.
To be like, well, maybe there's this other thing that's a bit more concrete and we can go and have light orb sex and be young forever. And like, you know, this was kind of a new agey or like an early new age movie. New age, I think, probably hit its zenith in the late 80s, 90s, but a lot of the kind of themes in this movie, dancing around religion, but not being specifically religious.
Yeah. That's true.
were to come up a lot more.
They go off in an arc to outer space. You know,
You're not wrong.
I can just hear Ron Howard on a boat down in the Keys or whatever, yelling at all these old people, "Keep looking up, keep looking up," because you know that they're gonna get your fucking neck. Like I'm in my 40s, and like after a while, I'll be like, "All right, I get it," but like, how many hours just straining?
The visual effects were pretty good.
I can't believe it won an Oscar, though.
Oh, I can.
The glowing alien stuff is pretty bad.
I wonder what it was up against.
At the time, man, I bet that looked so cool. I mean, I don't remember, because to me, when I saw it now, it clearly is a person in a leotard with some sort of puffy stuff filling around their head, and with then some sort of light effect and after put in or something like that.
It was probably competing against Superman 4.
There were 2 other nominees.
Yeah.
There was Young Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, that's a good one, though.
And Return to Oz.
Yeah, you're not going to compete with that Cocoon zeitgeist.
Young Sherlock Holmes I remember that being a really big deal, a lot of the visual effects they did in that, because it had the stained glass people that come out and sword fight, and it had all these crazy things that had never happened before. I'm kind of surprised that this won against Young Sherlock Holmes. Young Sherlock Holmes is a much better movie than people...
So much darker.
Is it darker?
I mean, somebody gets their throat slit in the first scene.
I've never seen it, I don't think.
Oh, you should definitely watch it.
I'm sure it will come up.
Yeah,
it's another one of these.
I've seen that movie more recently than Cocoon.
Oh, did you figure out what the trance-like state whilst watching films was?
No.
Okay.
I've been trying to figure that out for about 15 years.
Right on. Okay, so I'm going to throw to the next clip here without introduction, because it doesn't need one. What do you think about Cocoon appealed to young Peter?
Wow, you're going to make me cry right now. I mean, I guess without getting into too much psychology, I had kind of a rough childhood. I mean, I was like an adopted fat kid, and I was hyperactive. And I mean, I think there's some aspect of like there being a solution maybe, or like, you know, these people saved these people that were in a bad situation kind of, and maybe that was it. Maybe like they're just being, I don't know. I think that's probably part of it. Something there. I mean, I think that might be it. I don't know. I'll find out.
Yeah. Sure. So, watching it again, do you think your initial guess of what might have appealed to you about Cocoon was close, or did a rewatch change your idea what might have drawn little Peter to Cocoon?
I think I just said the same thing just a second ago, that it provided like a possible answer to like why we're here. And I think that's just a different way of saying what I said there. Right. So, I mean, I guess I was very accurate.
Okay.
I like to say accurate, by the way. I know that's not how it's pronounced.
That's fine. Words are words. They don't matter. So listeners will be heartened to know that Gutenberg, which is of both German and Ashkenazic origins, means good mountain or good hill.
They're going to be heartened to know that?
They will be, yes.
Okay.
So, last clip that I'm going to throw to, I asked what expectations you had upon your return.
Delight. No, wonderment. I think I'll enjoy it. I'm hoping that there's a number of details about it that I forget, because I can remember scenes, right? I can remember like I do remember like there being a scene where Wilford Brimley is fishing with Daryl. I just keep calling him Daryl.
That's the right name.
Yeah. And they're I think they're standing in the water, like up to their hips, because it's in Florida. And that was weird to me, because you don't stand in the water in Wisconsin lakes. You stand on the shore. And I thought that was really weird. And they're having a conversation, and I think he might be telling him that they're leaving and they're going to space and trying to explain that. And like, there's details, and I want to be surprised. Like, that's what I want to be, because I feel like I can remember some, as I've been thinking about it, like key scenes. But I don't remember Steve Gutenberg's role in it at all. I remember that he's a friend in the end. At least he might be like an antagonist at the beginning, but he's a friend in the end. I believe he helps them.
What scenes surprised you from the rewatch?
Well, first I'd like to say that was 100% accurate, what I just remembered there.
Yeah.
Except for they weren't up to their hips. They were up to their
they were like
knees in
thighs
water.
or so, yeah.
It's still an A- recollection there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I surprised by? I was surprised at how quickly it was about them stealing time in this pool, right? Like, they were going to that pool, and then the cocoons arrived in the pool. Like, it was just a vacant pool. It was weird that there was this kind of rundown mansion that had a fully upkept pool that was, it was weird.
No one should have been swimming in that pool. There's no way that has okay chlorine or pH.
Yeah.
And so I was surprised by that. I was surprised by the Hume Cronin cheating on Jessica Tandy. I hadn't remembered that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was completely surprised that Brian Dennehy was in the movie at all. But once I saw him, I was like, oh yeah, right. I remember this now. But yeah, I mean, there's the whole fact that the point is that these aliens were trying to rescue their friends was a surprise to me. Like, that's actually kind of what the movie's about.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's almost competing A stories, right? There's that's like a side plot. They're both the main plot. So.
Feels like it's sort of that's a plot point that would appeal to like World War II vets also.
Yes.
Because it's about, going back to get your
fallen
brethren
friends,
who you left behind. Yeah.
And it had been thousands of years, right? Wasn't that the...
Yeah, I think he said it was 10,000 years or something.
Yeah, it was kind of vague why they left them. It was like Atlantis...
Well, it's because they're really bad at time management, these aliens are.
Is that what they said?
Basically, like, we didn't have enough time to prepare them for the voyage back to the Antarian planet, so these 20 volunteered to stay behind. But then they're also bad at time management here because, we have to fly out tomorrow. No reason ever given why. Why they need to leave tomorrow. Like, is it because of the eclipse? But if so, then why didn't you give yourself more time and come earlier?
It's true.
How fucking mad would you be if you're the volunteer and you're like, hey, look, I'll take one for the team. And the next thing you know, you're all raisined out and Brian Dennehy is cradling you in his arms.
10,000 years later.
As you're fucking dying. Like, wow, you really did me like that? You really did me like that. And just to speak on what you said earlier, Josh, any positive effects from the cocoon juice in that pool would be completely negated by the bacteria swarm scumming on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it must...
They're all getting ringworm.
Staph.
Staph for days.
And, they all have sores because they're old and their skin's like paper.
Yeah. Now, were you delighted or filled with wonder?
Oh, yeah, I was. I was definitely sucked right in. I was never like, this movie's cheesy. I was like fully in it. And since it was on Sling, I had to watch it with commercials.
Sure. Super fun.
And I was just fine with it because I was so into the movie. I really was. It wasn't a chore in any way to watch. And I actually stopped taking notes because I just wanted to watch the movie.
So we're kind of touching on the pre-interview stuff.
I might get a phone call any second. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So for picking up the scraps, is there anything we've missed that anyone wants to talk about?
Antarians reminds me of Eternia, which is where He-Man lives.
Interesting. Okay.
But He-Man didn't exist, I don't think, yet.
Well, He-Man was a toy first, right? And then the cartoon was created to sell the toys in the U.S.?
Yeah. Go watch the making of He-Man sometime. It's actually a pretty fascinating story. It's really stupid, but fascinating.
I would say that if I'm leaving to go to a distant planet, and you guys know about this, A, don't rat me out to your fucking mom, and B, don't lead the authorities who were not gonna find me, who were going the opposite direction, directly to me.
Yeah, the boat chase was real tense.
Simple request. I'm sharing this with you guys in confidence that I want to go to another planet with a bunch of light-being aliens. Let me go. And once I'm gone, go on the news. I don't care.
Spill the beans.
Give me 2 fucking days, David.
Yeah.
You fucking narc.
So I don't really have anything to add for scraps. So major gripes. What was your biggest gripe of the film? Starting with Peter.
What was my biggest gripe of the film? It's like no notes.
No gripes.
10 out of 10, no notes.
I mean, Oh, man. I don't know that I really do have a huge gripe. It's a pretty solid, mainstream fare type movie. It's not like arty in any way, but I'm a sucker for I like the flavor of Ron Howard and I like the flavor of Spielberg. I know what I'm getting and I'm signing up for that. It's like going to Baskin Robbins and being like, yeah, this isn't going to fucking bend my mind in any way. But I mean, it's actually extremely comparable in some ways to Close Encounters, like having a similar vibe to Close Encounters and feel filmically kind of looks the same. And I bet the visual effects were both done at ILM.
Probably, yeah.
So, I mean, they look the same. There are those effects that at the time looked perfectly seamless, but now when you see them, it's this is clearly broken up. You know what else does that? Which is really weird to me, is the Lord of the Rings movies. If you go watch the Lord of the Rings movies now, it's like, this looked like seamless, and now I can clearly see, and that's interesting to me. To me, what that is there's some part of your brain that
that's just kind of
tricked a couple times, and then as your eye adjusts to it, you start to be able to see those lines and stuff. It's really interesting to me how that works.
Jurassic Park still looks good.
You're goddamn right. A lot of practical effects, though.
Sean, what's your biggest gripe?
Yeah, I mean, I just think we talk about this a lot. Sometimes it's just the world building. I mean, there was such a glazed over explanation for anything that was happening from both Dennehy's point of view, the questions that if I was a character within this movie would be asking, never come up.
Right.
So much of this just kind of felt like this, stress test, Dianetics type of presentation of this is, I don't know. It just felt like we could have had a bit more explanation about what actually is happening within the pool, what these things are. I don't know. It felt like we needed to spend a little bit more time on that.
I don't want a ton of world building in my movies, but this was paper thin on that.
I would agree with that.
And we don't really get how much, why is Brian Dennehy so good at lying, right? Yeah. He's able to smooth things over with that cop in the blink of an eye.
Oh, yeah.
Who, once they have kind of exposed and they tell the authorities, oh, aliens, whatever. These alien species somehow have deception and subterfuge nailed so much better. And credit Brian Dennehy for just being a damn good actor who can fill up a doorway. But
well, that's the answer, though, is giant rich white guy.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
that's some commentary they didn't even really realize that they were doing.
Yeah.
So how would we fix this for a modern audience?
I'd be surprised if this is released wide. I think for a modern audience, this is a TV Hallmark movie. This is something that everybody knows going in that this is going to be an emotional, uplifting story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very schmaltzy. I mean, there's no real cynicism. And I mean, some of the most negative characters in this movie are just a couple of shitty orderlies.
And Hume Cronin.
Hume Cronin's never-ending wood.
Yeah. See, those are the edgy parts. That's kind of edgy, and then the rapey part of Gutenberg,
the Tom shit,
that's 80s stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's like kids swearing in movies, right? Kids saying shit
but that's
in movies.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
In the 80s.
The Peeping Tom stuff's not so awesome.
Not so awesome, but
she would eventually pose for Playboy, so all Gutenberg had to do was wait 10 years.
Sure.
Is that true?
Yes.
That's true.
When was that?
What issue number?
Yeah, what issue? I don't really want. I'm just curious.
The nerve of Steve Gutenberg to try to catch a glimpse of Tawny Welch. Excuse me, what was the publication date on
that? Yeah, that's legal.
Do you have a fix for a modern audience, Peter? Or a 10 out of 10 no notes?
I'm so not critical, because that's the thing is I hate in Gutenberg sees her.
Yeah.
He starts freaking out, and he's freaking out. And to me, it was just shut up. Just shut the fuck up. They're clearly not trying to kill you. So listen to what they have to say. Yeah. And so, we spent more time watching him freak out than getting the explanation that I think you guys are talking about. Which, that's when he did give a little bit of an explanation and why they're there and stuff. But, I mean, I guess a lot of the stuff my mind is good at filling in those blanks in a way that's acceptable to me. Like, okay, so these people are eternal energy beings. They must radiate some sort of, immortal energy into the pool, and that's what's making the people young. Yeah, that's good. I'm good with that. I can buy that. But I'm trying to think of like Bernie being this kind of like
Bernie sucks.
Milquetoast, like antagonistish, not really antagonist.
The real problem is there's not a real antagonist in this film.
Oh yeah, it's Rance Howard.
No, I mean there's like
no, there's not.
So there's no like real conflict. I mean there's interpersonal conflict between certain characters, but that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And the one point where there should be conflict, it's like smoothed over so fast that then you're just like, okay, there isn't a lot of narrative tension here.
Right. The one thing that really bothered me was that when Steve Guttenberg jumped into his little dinghy, he had no oars.
Well,
he had no way to
been chased.
Didn't even look like he took the money with him when he jumped.
He did take the money. I was sure of that. I wanted to make, because those are the things that like I'll really get hung up on. Like, I'll think about that like for 5 years. Like, why didn't he take the money?
I mean, the Coast Guard's probably still going to be looking for the olds.
Yeah, that's why he knew he'd be.
Yeah, but it really bothered me that he was in a boat with no paddles.
So, saving graces. What was your favorite moment or element of the film? Guessed first, Peter.
What was my favorite moment?
Your favorite part of the movie, basically.
I know. I don't know. I guess.
Rance Howard, probably.
Maybe Rance Howard. Could have been Rance Howard. I mean, the movie. Like, what was my favorite part of the movie? Was probably the movie. Like,
the whole thing, all of it.
Yeah.
All right. Sean, what was your...
There's not one part of it that I can peek out and be like, the movie was good, but this was the crowning jewel of the movie. Like,
sure.
This is a James Horner score. I think it's terrific. I actually think so much of the emotional baggage comes because of that score. Mm-hmm. He crushed it on this movie. Going from sentimentality to like suddenly making this an action movie in the last 20 minutes. That takes a pretty damn good composer. And I think, Ron Howard and Horner worked together a lot. I think the camaraderie with the three guys is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Granted, as maybe a caveat of that, they don't give the women much to do. I think Rose is probably the most interesting character given her dementia. And they blow it by not having her at least take a dip before she dies.
That's true.
Because that way it would have been a really interesting conflict to be like, look at all these benefits that you're getting from being able to communicate with your wife, but she got them through this
betrayal.
Well, betrayal and secrecy, but also something that you didn't approve and that you're against.
Right.
So Bernie did not want anything to do with that pool, and yet now he had a wife that he could converse with, play chess. Then not just to say the 2 or 3 same names. What a cool little subplot that they just
I'm getting my phone call right now.
Biffed on. Okay.
I have to go.
Okay.
I got to answer this. Okay.
Thanks for joining us, Peter.
Yes.
we'll get the word out.
Yeah.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
There you have it.
Yeah, that happened. So I guess my favorite moment of the film is when the kid jumps from the dock onto the boat and just hits the side of the boat so fucking hard.
Every rib of that stunt man
yeah. Broke.
Is shattered. It was a great little clip though.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't tell that it wasn't him.
No, I couldn't either. Like, I'm obviously that kid is not doing that stunt, but like,
I couldn't tell that it was a 20-year-old
track
star
female.
Yeah. Yeah. In a wig.
So everyone can find Peter on social media at the places in the show notes. It's usually Peter O. Johansen, but he's on Instagram. He's on Twitter. Thanks in absentia, Peter.
Thanks, Peter,
for letting us reinvigorate your childhood like you were able to step into the pool with all these.
It's totally fine. Cocoon's totally fine. There's no ill will in this movie.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. I've watched it twice this week, and that is definitely, those are the last 2 times I think I need to watch this movie. But it was fun.
Yeah, I would say also that neither you or I are a particularly cynical person. Like, we do have soft spots here and there. We get emotional about some stuff, but
Ron Howard and Steven Spielberg are not my cup of tea. And
I think Peter's drank a little bit of the Kool-Aid that these aliens have offered him. Yeah. And that's totally fine. And I think a lot of people in the 80s did, which is...
He actually does know Antarians.
Yes. Brian Dennehy has pulled his eyelid down at Peter.
Yes.
And we can assume that Peter's had some light orb pool sex.
Yeah, and that he swam around underwater by the boat at the dock with dolphins, I guess. I don't understand what that scene was about at all.
We did not talk about the dolphin training on this movie, but props to whoever did that.
Yeah, also, there was a lot of talk about how horny the dolphins were. Or at least it was mentioned once, which is way too many times.
I think they are a horny species.
They are,
yeah.
But we don't want to hear about it.
No. We'll save that for a whole nother episode.
It was weirdly, like, sexualized in a way that I didn't remember at all. The whole movie was.
Yeah. I mean, the whole libido subplot, I forgot.
I forgot that there's the female rear nudity.
Just the backing? We don't see anything other than that, right? We
just see just the ass.
We see the ass?
Yeah, when she gets in the pool, absolutely.
Oh, I missed that. But yeah, forgot about that.
You missed the best part of the movie, Sean.
I have that Playboy, so I'm not worried.
Yeah, it's fine. You got it yesterday in the post.
The Goot also with kind of the prototypical 80s aerobic body.
Yeah.
He looked great. And you could see like his kind of pathetic charm.
Yeah.
He did not have the coolness of Mahoney.
No.
But yeah, it was kind of a nice little change to kind of have him be this like just kind of sad sack, broken down guy that needed aliens to kind of like save his career.
Yeah. They might have saved his real career in real life.
Yeah. Just put him on the map.
He got the Cocoon boost.
Oh, yeah. This was huge for him because it, 3 men and a baby?
This led right to that.
Yeah. Good days for the Goot.
Anyway. Cocoon.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
All right, guys.
You've just listened to another installment of the Unkind Rewind podcast, mining and potentially ruining your childhood for content, one film at a time. Unkind Rewind is a Munchcast production and can be ingested wherever you listen to podcasts and on the Unkind Rewind YouTube channel. Music for this and every other episode of Unkind Rewind was composed by Divorcio Suave. Rate and review Unkind Rewind on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, Yelp, IMDb, Consumer Reports, Google Reviews, and TripAdvisor. Links to all of our social media accounts are in our show notes, but you'll find us as @Unkind Rewind Pod on nearly every social media platform that makes sense. If you had a question, concern, complaint, or positive feedback, you can email the podcast at unkindrewindpod@gmail.com, or you can join the lively Muchcast Discord to discuss this or any other episode of the Unkind Rewind with like-minded people. This dialogue with the pod may just make it into the next week's ep, so chat away. The Unkind Rewind Patreon will be coming soon, so start squirreling that pocket change away. Thank you for listening to another Unkind Rewind.